So I think Barr isn't the first lawyer working for Donald Trump to warn him of impeachment. I believe in the Mueller report, we read in Annie Donaldson's notes, who was a deputy to Don McGahn, that they worried about impeachment when they watched Donald Trump's conduct behind closed doors in the context of that investigation.
Right. And the fact that all this was taking place within 24 hours of him, skipping out on one of the other crimes called Russia. Right. And the fact that, the whole thing strikes me as something that is incomplete, the defense of this president. And I've been saying this for a couple of weeks, and I'll keep saying, because no one's met. I think they do watch this network, the other side of this argument. And I think that they have failed to put in this one piece that would make some kind of sense. Say, he wouldn't have done something like this. Everybody knows they'd laugh at that. That's an LOL. Everyone knows this is what Donald Trump would do. This is how he operates. This is his transactional way of doing things, his squeeze, the way he squeeze a weaker partner, the way he would take advantage of a guy like Zelensky, a guy who was weak, threatened by a stronger, bully neighbor. He would do this. This is what Donald Trump would do. He sees Joe Biden riding high in the numbers back then in the early summer, and he goes, wow, I can beat any of these guys on the left. I might have a problem with this moderate. Now, this may not be the way it will turn out this November.
Sure.
But it's certainly the way his mindset was. I can beat the guys on the left. Biden may be too likable, too easy to. They might all get behind him. I bet if I knock him out, I win this baby. If I knock him out. By the way, that is how most politicians think. The Clinton, if you could knock out Bob Kerry, you could win the nomination. I mean, it wasn't Tsongas he's worried about. It's usually somebody else you're worried about. And he was worried about Joe Biden. So he's thinking, okay, I'll do this thing. And I haven't heard a single Republican in the House during all those days of Winfrey or this Senate as it's begun this week. I haven't heard one person say, this is a man of good character. This is a good man. He wouldn't do something like this. This is not how he operates. He's clean. He's on the level. He operates in the brightness of day. He would never squeeze a business associate. He would never do anything like when we know it's exactly how he built his empire.
And I think you're making a point. Listen, I mean, I think a really good reporter here is not just what people say, but what they don't say. And the other thing that no one...
They don't say, the dog that doesn't bark, which nobody says he wouldn't do this. He didn't. In fact, the irony of this, I think it's going to reach this at the end of next week. They're going to almost, to use a legal term, stipulate. Okay, he did it.
Right.
He did everything you said he did. You got all the proof. And by the way, it is against the Constitution. So what? You're not going to knock a president out on our watch because he's our guy.
Well, it is amazing, Mike. I mean, this is where this is.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.